Should say
Start soon.
live. Oh yeah, like that. Welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zaid.
My name's
And
Abdullah.
my name's Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. Have you ever felt like you are worrying, your heart is pounding out of your chest, and you can't even be shaking?
Well, sometimes, especially before a big test, or if you have to get up on stage, it can really get anxious. You can really get anxious, and it's not fun at all. I mean, rates of anxiety have continued to grow since 2020 as young people cope with loneliness and loss. The pressures of social media and worries about school safety. I mean, 93% of school health workers say that they have seen an increase in students with anxiety since 2019. And I think that's true, as a lot of kids nowadays are just on their phones and that's all they do. So how can we function in a society when all of us are anxious? And what can we do to build a non-anxious life? Well, let's ask the one and only Dr. John Delony all about that today. Dr. John Delony is a best-selling author, mental health expert, and host of the Dr. John Delony Show. John has 2 PhDs and over 2 decades of experience in counseling, crisis response, and higher education. He is the author of the best-selling books Own Your Past, Change Your Future, and Redefining Anxiety, and his new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, which just got released. John has appeared on Fox News, Fox Business, Today, and has also been featured in the Real, Simple, and Fast Company magazines, as well as HuffPost. He has also been a guest on the Minimalist Podcast, the Jordan B. Peterson Podcast, and the Mind Pump Podcast, and now our podcast. John's goal is to help people navigate through tough decisions, improve their relationships, and believe they're worth being well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We love to have. It's amazing to have your time and wisdom on the podcast today. We know you're super busy. Yeah.
Yeah, we know you're like really busy, so we can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Zane.
So you are such an inspiration. I mean, we would love to know your story.
Yeah, we love to know your story.
Your story.
Oh, what's my story? Okay, ask me one more time.
So I mean, we know that you're super inspirational. So we would love to know your story. Like, how did you get involved?
Okay. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and my dad was a homicide detective, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was also a SWAT hostage negotiator. And so when somebody was going to hurt themselves or somebody was going to maybe hurt other people, my dad was a part of a team that would go in, and my dad's job was to talk to that person and see if he could get a safe outcome. And when I was in high school, my mom went to her first community college class. And in her culture, she wasn't, her religious culture, she wasn't allowed to go to college. And so it took a long time for her to get the courage and for the support in our home. And at the age of 42, she took her first class. And then the next semester, she took another class. And then fast forward to her age 53, she graduated with her PhD. I'm sorry, 57 PhD. She was a tenured professor at 63. And this past summer, she was in her 70s. She finished her last summer teaching in Oxford. And so I grew up in a home where I had a dad who taught me, but through his actions, when things are scary and hard, you go into the problem. That's where the solution is. You help other people by going into the problem. And I learned a lesson by watching my mom that there's no such thing as the words "I can't," and there's no such thing as the words "you're too old," or there's no such thing as the words "it's too late." None of those things apply. Go do the next right thing. And so now, fast forward, I've worked at the university for a couple of decades now, and now I'm an author and a speaker, and I have a podcast and radio show. And I'm also married, and I've got a wonderful, brilliant wife. She was Dr. Delony way before me. And 2 awesome kids that are about y'all's age. And I got a bunch of chickens and a couple of dogs out here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, that's amazing. I mean,
Amazing.
So as we said, anxiety in kids is on the rise. What do you think that is?
I think it's a number of things. If I was to distill it down into just a couple of bullet points, I would say number one, kids absorb the tension from the adults in their life. So children look like physiologically, they consume the energy from the adults around them. So if the adults are anxious and raged out and angry all the time and watching TV and always on their phones and always yelling, that is going to translate into the bodies of the kids. So I think number one, kids are anxious because of the adults in their lives have lost their minds. The second thing is we have taken away things like recess, healthy foods, and human connection, kids playing together, and we've handed them video game controllers and screens and phones. And the difference is you might have a couple of friends on your street that you play with, and your brothers too, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
there might be one friend who's a neighbor who's a little bit of a knucklehead. Well, y'all can not play with him, or y'all can sit down and say, hey, if you're going to play with us, you can't talk like that, or you can't be rude, or you can't hit us. When you move all those relationships online are being curated by thousands of people and billions of dollars worth of technology designed to keep you attached to that phone. And so it becomes a very artificial laboratory for human interaction. And unfortunately, so far, it often brings out the worst of us. And the worst of us is what's rewarded on these platforms. And so I think no stable adults and an ecosystem that our bodies aren't designed for online, all the time video games, all the time screens, all the time social media. I think you just have millions and millions of young people's bodies that the alarms are just going on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and I think it's really weird now how most kids would rather, if they have a phone, they'd rather scroll through their phone than play outside for recess.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And they don't have, their parents aren't running around and playing outside. They don't have a picture of what that looks like. I grew up and my dad played on a softball league, and my dad was always outside doing yard work. Nowadays, parents are glued to their phones. And so kids know, oh, I just want to be like my mom and dad. So they get glued to their phones. And it keeps the house kind of quiet, and then it keeps the yelling down. And so it feels like everybody's doing the right thing. But what's happening is our bodies know that we're lonely, lonely, lonely. And so it sounds the anxiety alarms.
So you talk a lot about anxiety is like a smoke detector. Why is it like a smoke detector?
Because it's your body's way of letting you know that you're not okay. And so when your body detects that you're not safe, it increases your heart rate, or it gets that sinking feeling in your tummy, or it makes you start to look around or maybe sweat a little bit. That's your body gearing up for fighting or running, which is mainly the ways that your body responds to stress and to threats, really. And so when your body sounds the alarms, think of it this way. If your mom or dad is cooking something and it catches fire and it starts to catch your stove on fire, and then the cabinet's on fire and the smoke detector goes off, is the smoke detector the problem? No, the fire is, right? Yeah. The fire is the problem. So anxiety is just like the smoke detector. It's letting us know that something in our life is on fire and very, very not safe.
Yeah, and I know we've talked a lot about on the podcast about how the brain and the gut are connected, right? Yeah. And so that's why inflammation sometimes directly affects the brain, and that's why anxiety has also risen a lot more with inflammation rising, right, Matt?
Yes.
I mean, that's why a lot more people are now dealing with stress and anxiety.
Well, we feel a lot of those things in our gut, and our gut and brain are connected by the vagus nerve. And so there's so much going on there. And if you fill up your body with not good foods, and you fill up your environment with unsafe things, and you're lonely and you're exhausted, and you're not allowed to go outside and get fresh sun and fresh air, and you've got parents who are yelling all the time, that's a recipe for a body that's just going to start sounding all the alarms, letting you know, hey, guys, we're not safe. We're not safe.
So where can kids start building a non-anxious life?
Ooh, that's a really great question. I I would start this way. I think it's important for kids to know be really honest. That Twinkie or that bowl of candy tastes good, but do I feel good afterwards? Playing a video game for 2 hours, that's fun. But how fun is it to go hiking in the woods with one of my other friends, or to play a football game outside with our friends and it's cold, but it's a little bit sunny and you're kind of tired and some of y'all won and some of you lost and you've been laughing. Which of those feel better, right? And so I think it's important for kids not to chase your feelings, but to know it's actually healthier for me to get a good night's sleep. It's healthier for me to put my screens down and play with my friends. It's healthier for me not just to go into my room and slam the door unless that's the only safe place in my home. It's healthier for me to eat better and to study instead of procrastinating and waiting and then having the whole house be chaos. So unfortunately, kids are trapped in their homes of the adults, right? And so sometimes it's hard, but I think kids need to say, okay, despite what it feels good in the moment, what's the right healthy thing for me to do long term? And that's really tough for a kid to do, but man, if kids can do that, wow, what a benefit down the road.
You map out 6 daily choices. In your book, can you go through some of them with us?
Sure. Do you have any that you want to talk about?
I mean, you can talk about it first.
I'll pick 2.
Yeah.
2 of my favorites are choosing freedom, which is not a political statement. It's a statement about who do we owe money to? So let's say you buy a car and you don't have cash and you take out a loan, and then you buy a house and you can't afford it with cash, and so you have to take out a mortgage, and then you have a credit card where you pay for something, you get the thing right now, but you don't have to pay until next month when the bill comes. Your body knows that now somebody else is going to tell you what to do with your life. Because if you're sick and you don't want to go to work, you don't feel like you can go to work, the bank is going to say, oh, you're going to work because you owe us money. And then your body knows, oh, you're not in control of your own life anymore. The bank is, the mortgage company is, the credit card company is. And so when I say choose freedom, I want people to stop thinking about what are all the things I can get right now. And I want them to start thinking about how can I have autonomy, agency? How can I be free? And if you don't owe anybody any money on a car, the car may not be as nice, but it's yours and nobody can take it from you. And then your body goes, ah. So imagine if you had a toy and you're, let's say, Zane, you had a toy, and let's say Ahmad could come just take it whenever he wanted unless you did 50 push-ups a day. And one day you hurt your wrist and you can't do any push-ups. And Ahmad just walks in and goes, I'm taking that toy. You would know that toy was never really yours because you were having to do something to keep it in your possession.
Yeah.
But imagine if that toy is actually yours. Even when you hurt your wrist, that toy is yours. Ahmad can never take it ever. That's free. That means it's yours, right? And so when we think about things that we buy that we don't really own, we borrow money, we have debt, that's what I'm talking about, choosing freedom. Another one, and we don't have freedom, our bodies will sound the alarm. Another one is this idea of belief. We have a society now that people don't believe in a higher power, whether that's God or Allah. They don't believe in anything bigger than them. They think they are the center of the universe, and what they want and what they feel is the most important thing in the universe. And the body knows we can't hold up the universe. That's not our job. And so you have to worship something that's bigger than you. You have to be in service to something bigger than you. And so that's why I say you have to choose belief. You have to believe in something bigger than yourself. Otherwise, your body will strain under that weight, and that strain can be called anxiety.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem now. I think people are kind of enslaved to the food system, right?
Yep.
I mean, all these big companies are putting so much money and resources into making the food that will really make you addicted to it, right? Like I want that food, I want that candy, I need that candy. And a lot of kids, they're enslaved to that kind of food. They need that candy, they need that sugar.
But actually, if they were just to have healthy foods for a couple of weeks, they would realize how good they actually feel, right? Like their bodies would go, ah. Now, candy's so good. I had a piece before this interview. I love it. And I have to know if I'm going to have candy, it's got to be in moderation. Otherwise, my body begins to go, oh, no. It's like putting really bad gasoline in your car. The car's not going to drive very well.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about connection. We are more lonely today than ever before. So what advice do you have for kids that are dealing with loneliness and
go make friends. And friends in real life, not digital friends. If you can and I understand people play video games together, people do all, but man, if you have a group of friends you can run around with at your house, some brothers that you can do life with, you have to have other people that you can rely on and be face to face with. And so that's all kids need to have a group of friends that they can call their gang.
Yeah, I mean, you are so inspirational.
So inspirational.
I mean, you often say that you are worth being well. Do you think that people lack that basic belief?
Yeah, most people, I think, unfortunately, because of all the negative media messages and because of how our bodies just don't feel good anymore, especially kids who are stuck in classrooms all day and can't go outside and can't do music and can't be with their friends. I think people have just gotten this idea that this is just the way life is. And I'm always going to not feel good. And I'm always going to not be worth the work it would take to actually go up against this system. And I always tell people, hey, you're worth that fight. You're worth that struggle. You're worth being well, whatever that looks like for you. Absolutely.
So you deal with a lot of people and their problems all day long. What do you wish they knew?
I wish they knew that I wish they knew they were worth having friends. And I wish they knew they were worth going to bed at a reasonable hour and they were worth putting their phones down. And I wish they knew that while government politicians are acting bananas, their neighbors are actually pretty good people and they should just get to know them and have dinner with them and share meals. And so that's what I wish. I wish people would get back to their local communities and begin to love each other again.
Yeah, my mom used to be like, we used to go and play outside in the middle of the streets, with all of our neighbors. Now, most people don't even know who lives right next to them.
That's right. That's right. And here's a strange thing. Here in Nashville, Tennessee, I could go down the street and more people would know the president of Ukraine than they would know the mayor of Nashville.
Really?
That's bananas. Here's why. Most people are glued to their phones and the phones are full of international news. They're not in touch with their neighbors. And so I want people to put their phones down and get back in touch with their local communities and their neighbors and their friends.
Yeah, that's really important. Otherwise, because that's why people are like, oh, I'm so lonely. Well, that's because you're not actually trying to be with other people.
That's right. And sometimes, let's be honest, other people can be mean. They can be bullies. They can be ugly. They can be rude. And that's okay. If they're going to be like that, then I'm going to move on. But I'm going to continue to work hard to find close friends.
Yeah, now most people make their devices their best friend.
That's right. And our bodies are sounding those smoke detectors.
Yep.
So what do you have to say to introverts, the people that are like, they like being lonely, basically? I don't know.
I think that's a misnomer. I don't think introverts like being lonely. I think introverts can get overwhelmed in crowds of people. Introverts are desperate for human connection too. They might love one-on-one connection or a small group of deep communication versus going into a crowded room and being the center of a party. And so introvert and extrovert is really where people get their energy from. So introverts might get their energy from a small group of people. Extroverts will get it from a big crowd of people. Everybody still needs human connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think because Zen, he loves to draw and everything by himself, like inside the room in his room. But when he goes to a party, he's just like,
right. So introvert and extrovert is more about how we recharge, not
Yeah.
about what our bodies actually need. So I am like you. I am actually an introvert. I charge up by being by myself, by writing, by reading, by listening to music, by playing music. But then when it's time to go, I need to go be with people. Otherwise, my body will start to wither a little bit. And similarly, you know what I really love, guys?
What?
Jelly beans with all my heart. I love them. And if I just keep eating them, I'm going to get sick. So I have to know I got to quit eating this and go eat some healthy food. Similar with introverts and getting out there and meeting people.
I mean, we love fruits. We can't really say the same about jelly beans, but we love fruits.
Good, good. Keep eating them.
I love oranges. And what's your favorite fruit?
Pomegranate.
Pomegranate.
Oh, delicious. I planted 2 pomegranate trees on my property this year. So hopefully they have some fruit next year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fruit, son?
Mangoes,
Mangoes.
Oh, I love mangoes.
Everyone's
yes.
favorite fruit.
besides yours.
Yeah, I don't like mangoes. Okay.
So a lot of kids are dealing with trauma, and that can lead to anxiety. So where should we start to address our trauma and lower our anxiety?
For kids, if you're experiencing trauma, go find a trusted adult, whether that's a teacher or a coach or a school counselor or a religious leader or a parent. But do not handle those things on your own. Please go see a trusted adult. And if your mom and dad aren't safe, go find a trusted adult that you can talk to.
Yeah, because remember that in order to live a healthy lifestyle, you also have to sometimes maybe have some alone time and reach out to other people. Right? You have to have that perfect balance.
That's right. And especially kids have to have adults in their life that they trust and who are safe.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people, like, it's part of their culture to,
Because everyone
deal
tells
with it
them
by
to deal
yourself.
with it.
Yeah, deal with it yourself.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can we start helping these kids, and what would be like one of the top 1 tips that you could give to a kid right now to start doing these things to lower their anxiety?
I would tell a kid to go find a trusted adult and tell them that they're not okay. That'd be number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 would be get a couple of friends and make an agreement. Hey guys, let's put our phones down and go for a walk outside. That sounds boring. That sounds so lame. Let's do it anyway. And then the third thing would be make a strong commitment to get a good night's sleep every night. Turn the TV off, turn the screens off. Even if mom and dad are like, we don't care how late you stay up. You just decide, I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm going to go get a full night's sleep. And so get with a parent, start making some friends, and make sure you take care of your precious body.
So how are you helping your kids build? You mentioned you have 2 kids, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. 13 and 7.
That's right.
Yeah. So a couple of important things, like my kids are not allowed to have social media, and they will never have social media as long as they're in my house.
Yeah, we don't have social media either.
Good. That means your parents are great. Good job, parents. I do my best to balance really healthy food. So we have humongous gardens, and I'm a big hunter, so I know where our food comes from. We have chickens, so we raise eggs. And so my kids mostly eat healthy unless I sneak them some candy, and that's fun too. So we have fun too. We also, they're outside a lot. And so they're playing in the woods, building forts, and their friends come over. And when their friends come over, all the friends put their phones that their parents gave them in a basket. So there's no phones allowed at our house with kids. And that's even for my teenage son. And what's really fun is his teenage friends love coming over with no phones. They love it. And so that's just a couple ways. And my kids read a lot. And as a parent listening to this show, I take my kids with me as often as I can, wherever I'm going, because I want my kids to see their dad in action out in the community, whether it's treating a waitress night at a restaurant, whether it's going fishing or hunting together, or it's me hanging out with my friends. If it's appropriate, I take my kids so they can see what it looks like for their dad to have friends, and so that they can use that same picture for their friends. So that's a couple of the ways that I'm trying to keep my kids healthy and whole.
Yeah, remember, parents who are watching, that kids always learn from example. So
That's
if
right.
you're like Dr. John mentioned, if you're always on your phone, they're always gonna be on their phone. If you're going out and stuff, then they're gonna be going out. So that's why it's always important to model what you want them to be doing.
Exactly. Very good.
How do you stay mindful in this crazy world and with all you do?
I turn the news off. I
Yes.
turn it off and I listen to music and I play music and I'm very connected to my friends and to my wife and to my kids. And I exercise regularly and I get a lot of sleep and I read.
Yeah, I was noticing that you have books in the background, you have a plant, and you also have
Guitar.
a guitar in the
Yes.
background.
A
Yeah.
lot like the guitar.
Yeah, like
yeah.
a poster of a guitar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are three important things. I love reading, I love nature, and I love music. Yep.
Wow.
I love reading. I love nature. Ahmad loves he likes to play football.
Sports.
Excellent.
He likes he we would call him the
artistic.
creative guy, you know, because he's always drawing and doing and like Van Gogh and stuff.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
amazing. Very cool.
Same thing. So this has been so powerful.
So
powerful.
So powerful. So, do you have any last words for our listeners?
Yes. Don't do life by yourself. Make sure you reach out to somebody if you're hurting or if you're sad or if you're struggling. And always remember you're worth being well.
Yeah, well, that's amazing advice.
It's very
Amazing.
wise.
Yes.
Well,
So
thank you guys
remember-
for having me on.
Well, like we like to say, it's our pleasure.
It's our
Pleasure.
pleasure.
It's my pleasure, but thank you so much.
So, where can people learn more about you and your work?
You can follow me. I have social media just for my job. I have social media. You can follow me at John Delony. No kids. Y'all need to put social media away.
Yeah.
And you can also listen to my show, the Dr. John Delony Show, anywhere there's podcasts or YouTube.
So remember everyone to go check out Dr. John Delony.
He's so empowering.
So empowering.
So
So, let's recap Dr. John's key points.
you are worth it. There's no such thing as you can't. And kids absorb the energy from the adults around them. And remember, you're not crazy and you're not broken or damaged goods. So you have the power to change your default settings.
Anxiety is your body working well. It's the smoke alarm that is alarming that will go off. When something is off balance, anxiety is eating away at us and we're letting it happen. We've created a world our bodies cannot exist in an environment where we were never made for.
There's so much we can do to build a non-anxious life. The 6 daily choices Dr. John discusses with this amazing book.
Amazing book. So, reality, connection, freedom. How can we be free? Mindfulness, health, and healing belief. Find a trusted adult. Find a couple of friends. Go for a walk with no phones. No phones. You hear that? No phones. So take care of your precious body. Eat precious, balanced, healthy foods. Go outside. You're worth being well.
Remember, we need to have belief. We need to have belief in something bigger than ourselves. The body knows we can't hold up the universe, and so we need to choose belief.
So thank you so much, Dr. John.
I've got one more thing to add.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
And listen to the Holistic Kids Show.
Yeah, yes, we
Yes.
need to do that as well.
Every time.
Oh, we are so thankful.
Yeah, we're so thankful.
I'm so thankful. Hey, appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great weekend, okay?
You too.
So we know you're incredibly busy, so we are so honored that you could join us today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zayn Sari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Momsy, and look out for our Momsy. She's working on her 8th right now, and we are working on her 1st.
All right.
So stay tuned. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast and iTunes and leave a review for us kids and families can benefit. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.